Welcome to Ask the Expert with noted radio host Steve Sleeper. Each week, Steve interviews entrepreneurs and professionals and shares their intriguing stories of success and service. Now, here's radio veteran Steve Sleeper.
Our guest today is personal injury attorney Robert Stephen at the Stephen Law Group in New Hampshire. Your case is the most important matter to attorney Stephen because it's the most important matter in your life. I began the interview by asking Rob for some background.
I'm a New Hampshire attorney and a Massachusetts attorney as well. I graduated from Suffolk University Law School in 1993, graduated number one in my class. I ended up from there, took a federal clerkship in New Hampshire for the Honorable Martin Laughlin. After the clerkship, I went to work for a firm. Didn't really know what I was getting into, but it was insurance defense work, civil litigation. And, I learned some trial skills and learned the business of insurance law. But after a while, I started, feeling had a little more in common with those aggrieved, that I wanted to help those in need out more than helping insurance companies with their bottom line and their profits. So ever since that practice, which I was at for about 3 years, I've been focusing more on the plaintiff side of cases, helping those who have been injured, no fault of their own. And I've had my own law firm since 2004, and we've been running strong ever since. And we fight hard for our clients to get them the justice they deserve.
Well, then, Rob, you're uniquely qualified to answer this question. If I've been in a car accident, not my fault, some guy runs into me, why do I need an attorney?
Well, the first thing that usually happens if you've been injured in an accident is you're going to get a call from a very seasoned insurance adjuster. And often they are trying to get you to release your claims by settling quickly. And the problem is, you got to figure out first what your injuries truly are. The injuries may, at first, with the adrenaline that runs from an accident, may appear to be minor. If the insurance company has an opportunity to put a check in front of you and get a release of claims, you will not be able to bring a case later on if your injuries turn out to be more severe. So it's better to sort of slow the process down, get some guidance, get some professional advice. You don't necessarily have to hire the attorney, but you should speak to an attorney before talking to an insurance adjuster to get the guidance you need to put you in the best position to protect your rights.
So how do I pay for an attorney in a personal injury case?
Well, under our ethical rules, we give the client the option of paying us either by the hour or on a contingent fee. A contingent fee is a percentage, and that's the more common way to hire an attorney in an accident case. And typically it's a third of any recovery. I often say that, if you have a lawyer that fights hard for you, is zealous as an advocate for you, the lawyer almost pays for themselves because they're going to get you that much more than you would have gotten on your own. And that would cover any percentage in costs in the case. Sometimes it makes sense for a client to hire an attorney by the hour. The hourly rate is usually, not a small amount. Many lawyers get $300 an hour, but there are cases. In fact, I've been retained recently to represent somebody on an hourly basis who was in a terrible accident. But in this case, the insurance company is ready to offer the policy to the insured, but I just want to make sure that they're protected and that we negotiate the liens properly and that they have no surprises later on. So it makes sense in that case not to take a percentage, but to take an hourly rate just to protect the client. So we always try to do what's in the best interest of the client.
Okay, so how do I know if I have a case?
Well, you first have to analyze how the accident happened. We're a fault-based system, so you're only going to have a claim if there's somebody else who's at fault, for pain and suffering and bodily injury, which is what we focus on. If liability is clear, Then the question is, what are your damages? It's interesting, Steve, because some firms will turn away clients who have, quote unquote, small cases. It may not be that profitable. It drives me crazy when you hear law firms say, I'll lose money on that case. Firms should not be about losing money. Firms should be about helping people. And that's what we try to focus on. So we don't really concern ourselves with the extent of the injuries. We concern ourselves with, does that client, that potential client, need the help of a lawyer? A lot of times a client wants to focus on just getting better. Their case may be soft tissue, no fractures. It's not going to be a significant settlement, but they don't want the headache of worrying about dealing with insurance companies, signing authorizations. It all depends on the comfort level of a client. If a client is savvy, a potential client, and they can handle the case on their own and would do better without an attorney, we encourage them to do that. But those who need help, we're here to help them. So it all depends on the sort of the comfort level of the client. We don't focus on the size of the case. We focus on whether that person needs help.
Okay, now you talked about insurance adjusters a little earlier. What do I do if the at-fault party's insurance adjuster calls me?
Well, that's pretty common after an accident. I think it's okay in many cases, Steve, to talk about the damage to your vehicle, because a lot of people rely on that car. They may need a rental car, and they may need to get that car replaced to get back and forth to work. So we don't mind that potential clients talk to the insurance adjuster about the property claim, but we ask them not to discuss the medical injuries. And this is assuming that liability is pretty clear. If there's a question of liability, they should not discuss that too much without talking to a lawyer first. Not because they're trying to play hide the ball or anything, but insurance adjusters are professionals. They're trained. They're trained on what to ask you, and they're trained on getting answers that, potentially will help their bottom line. But their loyalties don't necessarily go to you. I'll give you an example, Steve. An insurance adjuster may call up and say, "How you feeling?" And the person might be someone that tries to look at the positive in life and not the negative. And they might say, I'm okay, but they may not be okay. A year from now, when we go to settle the case, the insurance company is going to throw that in our face and say, your insured said a day after the accident that they're okay. So we try to tell our potential clients who call for our advice, if you want to talk about the damage of the car to speed that process up, that's fine. But don't discuss your medical injuries, and let us discuss the liability.
Okay, so I've been in a car accident. This is a scenario. I've been in a car accident. I'm the driver. Nobody else is in the car in this scenario. Guy runs a red light, T-bones me on the passenger side. I'm able to get out of the car and move around, talk to people, that type of thing. Are there some things I should keep in mind? Are there some things I should do after an accident?
Absolutely. The first thought should always be the medical attention bit. So you got to sort of figure out, do you need immediate medical attention? And if so, that should be the focus. If you're able to walk around, like you said, and it's something where you don't need to be rushed immediately to the hospital, the police should be contacted to come analyze the situation. It's very difficult later on when you don't have a trained professional or a trained individual like a police officer who are trained at police standards and training on analyzing the fault or the liability basis of an accident. It's very difficult later on when it becomes a he said, she said, and the other side says, no, I didn't run a stop sign. In fact, they were speeding. So I always recommend to call the police. In fact, many states have statutes where you have to either exchange information or call the police, or you could be violating a law. So first is medical, second is have the police come and analyze the situation, and then third call would be to your attorney.
As we record this podcast episode, it's the end of May 2020, so We're 3 months into the COVID-19 crisis. That brings me to my next question. Are you open right now, and how do we meet?
Yes, we're open, Steve. We're very careful. We have had staggered hours. The governor in New Hampshire pretty early on listed the businesses which he deemed essential. Law firms are essential because there's rights that injured parties have in my line of practice that need to be, aggressively pursued. There's statutes of limitations, so if you do not continuously pursue the rights of your clients, you can miss deadlines. We deem ourselves essential, and the governor seemed to include us on his list, so we've continued to be open. However, we've done it in a safe manner. We've staggered hours so that there's one or just a few more people in the office at the same time. They're kept safely distanced from each other during the working day. And then we try to do Zoom meetings with clients or other technology such as WebEx. For those clients that absolutely need to meet with us, we've had a setup in the parking lot where we've actually brought a table out there where we can sit with clients safely 6 feet apart and go over paperwork and have documents signed that are needed for their case. But we're erring on the side of caution, and we're trying to go real slow with in-person meetings until we're all out of this terrible pandemic that we're suffering together in society.
Okay, so can the pandemic delay my claim?
It can delay your claim, but the courts have done a nice job of trying to bring innovation in to continue to have those wheels of justice spin. Courts are starting to schedule things, sometimes telephonically, sometimes by using a system like WebEx or Zoom. Those wheels of justice are starting to spin again. So yes, there can be a delay, but quite frankly, I think it's a limited delay. Most of these cases, Steve, settle. If I had to estimate, I would say 95% of injury cases settle without seeing a jury or a bench trial. Insurance companies are handling the cases. I think despite me, sort of beating up on them a little bit in terms of where their objectives lie, I think most adjusters still want to settle cases. So yeah, there's a slight delay, but maybe it's only a couple months in the grand scheme of things, because I think the courts, I think lawyers, and I think insurance companies all want to see these cases resolved. And we just need to fight hard to make sure our clients' interests are protected, that they receive justice, and that they're treated fairly.
Many thanks to attorney Robert Stephen for being our guest today. His website is stephenlaw.com.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Expert with Steve Sleeper. Join us next time as entrepreneurs and professionals share their intriguing stories of success and service.